Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have week 9 of the Christmas series. So let me show you the cards. I did another set, so I'll kind of quickly show you the color palettes that I did. I think this one ended up being my favorite for the colors. Yeah, so I made another set of cards, and I think that they turned out quite pretty. I can't wait to show you them, so let's jump right in. All right, so as always, I like to cut down all my cardstock, and when I make sets of cards, I like to kind of do an assembly line. So you are going to see me kind of repeat the steps 5 times. I won't show you every step 5 times, but keep in mind that I am doing it 5 times every time we do something. So for my cards, I wanted to use the A2 sized base, which is what I'm going to use. And then for my black mat, I always cut that down to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, so that I get a really thin layer of white. And then for my HammerMill layer, which is going to be my top layer, that's the panel, I will cut that down to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, so that I get a nice thin black border around the card. I love layers. I think that it's a really great way to add a little bit something extra without having to really do too much. You just trim off a little bit of cardstock and you get something kind of pretty. But of course, this isn't necessary if you don't want to add layering. I do think that it really adds that nice border though, and kind of frames whatever art you've created in the center of it. So if you're looking to step up your cards and you've never done a layered border, try it and see what you think. You might be surprised. So then for the colored piece of each card panel, I'm going to do the same steps on each panel. It's just going to be different colors. I'm going to bring in 5 colors of Oxide ink, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah. So I'm going to repeat the colors on each panel. So I started with Spun Sugar, and then I came in with Shabby Shutters. And then when I remove the stencil and put it on the next card, and I do clean the stencil between each time. I'm not going to show you that, but I do, I promise. On the next one, I will start with Shabby Shutters and go into Weathered Wood. And then I use Weathered Wood and Milled Lavender and Antique Linen, and then Antique Linen and Spun Sugar again. So the colors are kind of repeated throughout the design. Each card will have one color that another card has. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I like to do this because I feel it helps make a card set look like a set. With the different colors. So that's something that I like to do. You don't have to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, I am just trying to give you guys inspiration. If you prefer different colors, if you want to do a square instead of a circle, you can do any of those things. This is just an idea that hopefully helps spark an idea in you. So if you want to recreate this and do different colorways, or, do a star instead of a circle, you can do all of that and still use the same similar design and have it kind of look very similar without being the exact same as mine. But either way, I just really want to stem, inspiration and hope that you kind of have fun creating things. I have had people ask me if they're okay to recreate my designs, and absolutely you can. That is why I make videos. It's because I walk you through how I'm doing it step by step, and then you can either, do what I've done and create a beautiful set of cards, or make it your own and just use this as inspiration. The only thing that I do ask is that if you do recreate my design, tag me so that I can come check it out and leave you some love. Just because if you put it on the internet, if you don't put it up on the internet, that's okay. Although you can always send me an email with the card if you want me to check it out. But feel free to, case the designs, or, however you want to use them. It's just that if you do post it online, I would love to come and check it out so that I can, give you some feedback, or if you want my feedback, or just leave you some love and, come and give you a thumbs up. So that's kind of all I ask if you're going to do that, but don't feel like you have to if you don't want to. I mean, at the end of the day, they're cards. I wouldn't put them up if I didn't think that people were going to use my designs as, inspiration or stuff for their own work. So it's all good. So you can see here that I've worked through all of the colors. I've come back to Spun Sugar. As I said, that was the 5 colors, and that is the color we started with. And I used the Spotlight Circle stencil. This is from Waffle Flower. I believe there are other designs. You don't have to use the circle one, although I find the circle tends to be my favorite shape for this. I don't know why. I like how it looks. But you could absolutely do a little square. I think that would look lovely too. This is just kind of my preference. And then for the stamping, I am going to use silhouettes. So the stamp set that I used was the Simon Says Stamp Seasons of Joy stamp set. I started reading the wrong title there for a second. And I went through and picked out the sentiment and a deer, and there's 2 trees. You're going to see me stamp the second tree here in a moment. I do double stamp all of this because I find when I stamp over top of Oxide ink, sometimes it doesn't come up as a very nice black. And I want this to be a very dark black on top of this fun colored circle. So I am going to stamp it twice. I am using my Onyx Black Versafine ink. I love that color. I think that it just gives you a really nice strong black, but the Claire ink, the black ink from the Claire line, the Versa Claire, is a really beautiful one as well. And I actually own that. I just usually forget to use it. So I kind of end up going back to my Versafine. Eventually I will replace this hinged lid, because now they make it with a lid that comes off. You don't have to have that hinged lid, but mine's still super juicy, so I tend to just use what I have. And eventually, if I have to replace it, I'll buy the one that doesn't have that hinged lid, because that hinge is kind of irritating. But I'm making do with what I have. You guys know I am a big believer in using what you have. This stamp set I got in a Simon Says Stamp kit in 22, I believe. I could be wrong. I'd have to actually check the date, but I'm pretty much positive that I've had this stamp set for quite a while, and I wanted to bust it out because I thought it would be a really pretty stamp set to use for these cards. And because all of these stamps are together, these 3 silhouetted images, there is a second deer as well, and that beautiful sentiment. So this is a great stamp set to create, sets of cards, because this stamp set has a couple of really great sentiments and then some fun silhouette images that you can just kind of, add the circle of color and then bring in those images and do some really pretty stamping on top. You could do an open image and color it in dark if you wanted to, instead of if you don't have silhouette stamps. That's another option for sure. I just find the silhouette stamps make this a lot easier, so you can kind of create multiple cards quite quickly. And when I'm making sets of cards, I like that. I like to have something that you guys could recreate super simply and just, keep going. And obviously having a stamping tool for this, you can see I'm using my Misti, makes it a lot easier to mass produce cards, but completely up to you as to how you want to do it. Now this part is a little bit time consuming, in as much as, I have to do a couple of cards. So if you didn't want to do this, you could put that stencil back on the card and then just flick on some perfect pearls or whatever your favorite. You could do some white splatters, whatever you want to do. I chose to go in with a white Jelly Roll pen and just create kind of a dotted look in the background. You can think that it's stars, you can think that it's snow, whatever you think it is, that's fine. And I just added dots of different size. I, drew slightly bigger dots and then, slightly smaller dots. I just lightly pressed my pen to the page. This was probably the most time-consuming single step of the whole process, but I love how it turned out. I'm going to hold it up here for a sec so you can see how that looks, and then I'm going to do that on all 5 cards. I didn't record it because it was the exact same steps, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. They're just little dots, and it just adds a little bit of more interest into that circle of color. You don't even need it. You could just have a beautiful circle of color, and that would be okay too. So completely up to you as to what you want to do there, but I felt like that was a great way to just add a splash of interest in that kind of flat color. But no right or wrong way to do it. So whatever you prefer is definitely the right way to go. And then, of course, we are going to adhere all of our layers here. I do start with that black matte. And here you can really see what I'm talking about when I say that it has a thin layer around it. I really aim for that. You could, of course, give it a 1/4 inch layer instead of like an 1/8 of an inch layer, but I just like how small and thin that looks, so I tend towards that. But there's no wrong layering here. Whatever you prefer is what you should do. So that's really up to you. And then I am going to add all of the bases as well at this point. So this is what I say when I mean that I'm doing an assembly line style. I'm going to do every step to every card at the same time, just because you already have those goodies out. Like at this point, my glue is all out, so that's what we're going to do. When I was blending my Oxide background. I had the inks out. So I think this is the fastest way to do all of the steps kind of in order, and then you kind of are just finished each step. So if you had to walk away, you could have them half ready and then go and finish dinner or whatever and then come back. So I do think this is a really great way if you need to make a lot of cards to kind of have them all at the same step. You could do one card complete start to finish. That is what I do when I make the other videos, but that of course is more time consuming. And generally, I try to leave that for a lot more in-depth cards because I'm not going to create, 5 of them. So this is kind of how I like to do all of my card sets. And then I am going to add just a touch of sparkle. I brought in some sequins. These are like a vanilla, I think they're a vanilla sequin. Very pretty, subtle. They just add a little bit of extra shine to a very simple card. I don't want to take away from that color in the center. That's why I chose not to do a colored sequin. I just chose a very subtle sequin. And of course, Mist is going to jump on the scene here in a second and let you know that she approves of my cards and of course walk over top of them because she has to do that. So sorry, the camera will go out of focus here in a second just because she's going to walk across. But I left that in just because I know you guys like to see her when she jumps on the scene and comes and inspects my cards. Here she is right here. So she's going to walk right across everything because that's what she does. But luckily we had finished adhering everything at that point. So that didn't really matter. And then she just bonked me on the face a couple of times because that's what she likes to do. She actually has her face to my microphone as I'm speaking to you guys right now, just because she likes to be a part of whatever I'm doing. So I'm going to hold these up so you guys can check them out in all of their glory. I think they turned out really pretty. I'd love to know what you guys think. Would you change anything about them? Would you have done a different color combo? It's always really interesting to see what other people would do with this similar idea, if they would change something. And I always like to hear that. So thank you guys so much for stopping by and checking out my cards. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll consider leaving me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. I will see you guys again very soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.